Hi, everyone. Amazing. Amazing response. Look at that. That's exactly what I wrote in the script. Everybody says, yeah, 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 woo, woo. No, I'm kidding. Well, yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you were able to mingle and get some food in your bellies. And I hope that by the time this ends, you're hungry again, because dinner will be served in about 90 minutes. So, I came to London back in November knowing only one person. And so to have filled this room aplenty means so much to me. People have traveled far and wide to see this work in progress. Shout out to my Americans sitting in this room. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and today's 4th of July, too. So, yeah. Okay, never mind. I didn't say that. I didn't say it. Shout out to my Americans. Yeah! And I just got to say, I'm filled to the brim with absolute gratitude. Thank you so much for coming. So I've been working on this memoir play for 7 years. This is my second time performing an iteration of it. I just finished the script this afternoon. And today is the first time I'll be reading all of this out loud. With the second iteration, my goal was to not only write new pieces, but to integrate the importance of food and the spirit of and the memory of my kitchen, which is central to my identity and my family, into this work. So, welcome to my kitchen. Well, this is my kitchen right here, and this is my mind. Cool? Yeah. All right. And just like in any kitchen, there's going to be some moments where I'll sit, there's going to be some moments where I'll take a sip of water, and there will be moments where I'll ask the audience to help out a bit. Thank you so much for witnessing my story. Even though it's unfinished, I'm choosing to speak because I want you to know the story that I hold. My story of deep sadness, my story of unresolved trauma, my story within my dysfunctional family. I seek liberation, I seek connection, I seek healing. And I know that that happens through speaking. But my speaking is not only for me, it's for you too. Because I suspect that I am not the only one trauma, grief, and dysfunction has happened to. When I speak up, will you say, me too? I can't wait to see. Oh, and one last thing. Let's all remember to breathe. Try it with me. One more time. And so it begins. Now, if you ask me, what is your first childhood memory? I would first talk about my father. I would talk about loving him at the age of 3. I think he was my first love, and my best friend too. I was fascinated by him. I loved his belly. I loved his bald head. I loved wearing his clothes, way too oversized for me. I loved drinking chocolate milk with him at night, and I loved eating Snickers with him in the morning. Sometimes, I would purposely fall asleep in his lap, just so he could hold me. I loved his hands. I trusted those hands. Now, if you were to ask me at this age of 3, well, what did your father's hands do? I would talk about how his fingers pointed at Ghana as a country, while his lips told my brother and I that we were royalty. I would talk about his hands holding me, bouncing up and down my spine as he carried me upstairs to sleep in my pink room. I was his princess. He was my king. Each other's everything. So if you were to question my father's hands at this age, I would say they were not violent. Yet. The violence came in at 4 and 5. Now at these ages, I would talk about his hands again, yes. I would talk about his calloused hands with ingrown nails and what they did at night. I would talk about how his hands hurt himself first. I would say that I grew up seeing the palms of my father curl around a cup of coffee at night that hid Hennessy in itself, while he lay on the couch, stinking and drinking in silence and moaning and wailing in darkness like some weird, abused Loch Ness monster wallowing in his own watery self-pity. I would talk about his hands feeding me boneless spare ribs as my hand softly caressed the knife marks that spread from one of his ribs to the other, like a frown. I would talk about how his hands did that to himself before I was born. I would talk about how we have never spoken about that moment, but I have imagined it. His body lying on a cold bathroom floor. I would talk about how I imagined a knife in his hands, wild and devil-like, but not possessed, entering his stomach, and how the knife, or I should say, the man who possessed the knife, so badly wanted to remove all of the shit from his life. Yes, I would talk about his hands and how they enacted the pre-beat to abuse, which is just abuse, but in the first person. The first person who had my heart was my mom. No, literally. They say that when our moms are in our grandmother's wombs, we are there. Meaning I've been a part of my mom since before she was born. 3 generations existing at once. 3 opportunities for pain to pass on. My mom was my first home. The first person who taught me confidence. She was a big woman with a larger-than-life personality, eccentric, loud-mouthed, and always showing off her titties. Her assertiveness was revolutionary like Hester Prynne, and she was absolutely in love with her children. She had 3, but only 2 that you know of. In 1988, her water broke, and she pushed for 3 days. It didn't work, and she had to set her son, Blaine, beneath the horizon. And then her whole world froze over. Drowning in an ocean of grief, barely staying afloat, she saw my dad in the distance, who looked like he was swimming, or maybe drowning too. She couldn't tell. She heard him yell out for help. She swam over, noticed he was older. He told her he was lost, far away from home, alone in this strange land. Said he lost his first son, and his mom was just buried back in his homeland, and he missed it because he was in prison. She kissed him, holding his wounds with her mouth, and with affection dismissed all the sad things he talked about. And they worked it out, drowning, struggling for breath, pushing each other's heads down to survive, and called what was actually drowning side by side a relationship. They arrived to shore this way, tattered from the past. At last, they were an island unto themselves, looking towards the future, trying to build something that would last. Their relationship progressed very fast. They partied, tangoing under the palm trees, intoxicated by whatever was in the glass. And soon, my mom was filled with mass. While pregnant, my mom struggled to work and live, and did what she could to plan for the upcoming kid, finding resources, chopping the wood. And my father would sit by the sea while drinking, watching it like it's taunting him. His mania heard the water whisper, voices from home, of expectations not met, not saying anything good. My mother would splash around in the water after work, urge him to come in, and that's what did him in. His bipolar disorder, no longer dormant, could not take it. So now it was her taunting him, her judgment, and he dragged her out of the water and dealt her punishment. 9 months of this moon phase, this cycle, until they created new life out of darkness. The couple's first son was born and he lived. Their lost ones were both resurrected in him. My brother Taryn, elated, they had prayed for this. As a man, my dad wanted to build something, not sleep out on the sand. And with those voices of expectations from home, whispering to him, telling him to do something with his privilege, with this opportunity, he became preoccupied with material things and took out his rage continually on my mom. 3 years of this moon phase, this cycle. Rest assured, there's more. New life out of darkness. A daughter was born, something they both had never had before, each of them having a reflection of themselves in the opposite gender. When my dad laid eyes on me, he said I was like his mother and wanted no other. He named me Shanelle, which means channel, connector of water, which is to call me the director of grief, of life, of memory. I was their first girl, my father's whole world. He was the first person to hold me in his hands. See, I was talking about his hands, right? And how after, only after, all pre-beats were completed and he hurt himself to the point of being numb, could he enact violence onto others. His first act of violence towards me was hurting my mother. He tried to kill her when I was 4. I don't know the reason. I don't think there is one. I don't know if it was night or day. I don't know the time of year. All I know is that our house was far enough away from other houses that if someone screamed, no one would hear. She did scream our names, calling us to come downstairs with a tone that was a mix of confusion, fear, and surety. That tone only mothers know how to use. And as we raced down the stairs, like sporadic children awoken on Christmas morning, we saw my father's hands curl into a fist and beat the pretty face of our mother. At first, his fist aimed for her eyes, so she could not see how he hurt her. Then, his fist aimed for her lips, so she couldn't protest his violence towards her. And when she wouldn't stop talking or yelling or screaming or crying or whatever you call the sounds of pleading for life, his fist aimed for a knife on the table. And then his fist turned towards her, holding her at knife point. "Shut up!" he yelled as he pressed towards her. "Please," she whispered as she backed away slowly. At this age, in my newfound 4-year-old maturity, if time could freeze, I would have been thinking, they say it takes 2 to tango, but in my parents' version of tangoing, it takes 3, because death is making a guest appearance. But time was not frozen, and I was screaming, "Stop that, stop!" as I pressed against the wall, helpless. My brother screamed too, but shortly he realized that his words wouldn't win in a battle with swords. And so he raced to the kitchen, trying to find the biggest knife he could to save our mother, the queen, my brother. He was a prince that became a knight in one night, when he picked up a sword and pointed it at, not a king like I once thought, but at a man who sat on a throne like one. That was the first time my brother fought the man. Who knew from that moment on he'd spend the rest of his life fighting the man? The man within himself, the government, the man of the house. In that moment, my brother had to fight a monster disguised as a king, disguised as a father. But that monster was the only example of a man my brother had. My father's fist dropped the knife. And after, only after, the living room was filled with tears, blood, and saliva, every sign of death, his fists shakily searched for cigarettes. And when one was found, his index and thumb would pray around the filter. Now, if you ask me, what would you say in this moment? I would talk about the smoke and how it symbolized the minds of both of our parents, always in a haze about the line between love and fear. I would talk about the smoke and how, like a magician, he tried to disappear after his act. I would talk about his fingers and how the tips of his fingers would send the tip of that cigarette into an ashtray, like a plane landing softly after it had already exploded. And then his palms would open as he opened himself up for a hug from my brother and I. And I would talk about how we ran into those arms while listening to his sobs, his tears falling onto our heads as if his sorrows were the knowledge he wanted to fill his kids with. And we hugged him. The man who attempted to steal life from our mother, because we somehow understood, even at those ages, the abundance of pain a man has to be in to almost kill and mistake that for love. At the age of 4, I no longer trusted his hands. I no longer loved them. And so it goes. My parents were naturally non-traditional people who never fully leaned in. They were always caught middling. My mother's essence was so masculine. Breadwinner, go-getter, hustler with ambition, cleavage always out, loud-mouthed, aggressive, never wanting marriage or to be domesticated. My father was quite the opposite. His essence was divine feminine, a true Taurian. He was ruled by Venus, the goddess of art, love, beauty, relationships, and fertility. I saw his softness and his abilities. He was the one who woke us up for school in the morning, and at night cooked peanut butter stew with fufu, and ate the eyes of fish because he joked that it made you more intelligent. The one who cleaned, the one who enjoyed doing the labor of the domestic, the one who twisted hair ties around my hair, the one who sewed my uniform when it was in despair. I do believe his nature was to nurture. So I kept searching for God in him, my father, my childlike mind hoping maybe he's not a torturer, maybe he's a gardener. I hoped his constant was affection, but I questioned. Because my father didn't have a father in the home to be his example, so he idolized and imitated the father from the Bible, a wrathful God, Old Testament, a father that is worshipped, a father that is harsh and punishes, a father who creates life and then destroys it. So the day after the fighting, when he washed my face, this man with the cloth, it was suffocating, grating on my skin and too rough. And when his hand zipped my winter coat, puffy in the color of hot cocoa, and the zipper pinched the fat at the bottom of my chin because of how quickly and without thinking his hands had done this action, I studied his hands, so thick, so sturdy, and questioned if these same hands that caused such destruction could really be the same ones I was supposed to entrust for protection. And when we got to the park, and his hands pushed me on the swing, and I yelled out stop because his pushing was too hard, too high, too unaware, it was as if he didn't hear. Because his hands kept swinging me higher and higher, and I remember my stomach turning, afraid of what would happen. Yearning to get off, yearning for him to stop, yearning, while anxious and avoidant attachment was forming. I kept searching for God in this man, but the problem was, this man believed in Father the noun, that person in the sky who rules over life and forgives you for your sins. And I believed in Father the verb, the action of parenting, a life giver who is a constant. I decided my father could not be this. Somehow he had a good memory, but his hands were forgetful, keeping what is broken and dropping what is fragile. My father picked the patriarchy to fully participate in, going against his nature to be the man he was nurtured to be, and with all his might attempting to drive out his divine feminine by having domination over his dominion, ruling, being authoritative, and making women submissive. Why did it have to be so binary? I wish his two halves could coexist. If they did, my father and I would be able to have a symbiotic relationship, like the frog who travels on the back of the fish. We wouldn't have to have been adultified. We could have just been his children. Or the bird who sits on the shoulder of rhino. It is biology, no? For me to want to depend on him, to seek him to meet my needs. I wished it was normalized back then, for the masculine and feminine to live comfortably inside the vessel of my dad. Maybe then he wouldn't sink so low into depression if he had options, if he had balance. My mom and I always bonded about our love of language, our love for reading and writing. She was a voracious reader, famously reading a book a day. We bonded over stories. Frindle, 19 Minutes, A to Z Mysteries. Yeah, I think some of y'all, yeah, you read that, yeah. We exchanged books when we were finished, ripped through series. We didn't only read books. I remember she came home from work once, gave me my astrology chart, told me I'm an Aries. She read my palm, told me my life would be long. The bond over reading was strong, because a story is a place where your identity can't be wrong. Because if you don't have it in the real world, it's a place where you can create or find belonging. Our favorite pastime was the passage of time. Stories are what fed our imagination, escaping to different worlds in different ways. Her, through fantasy. Me, through dystopian novels. Both stories of worlds that are disrupted and foreign, like our bodies and our home were to us. I am a practiced reader. Because of her, I have learned how to read more than just words on a page. I learned to read her muscle tension, her shoulders slugging forward, her brow in a furrow, and I know she is concerned about money. I learned to analyze defeat in her eyes, could know when she just got off the phone with judgmental yelling mom because she would eat ice and pick skin and smoke cigs to remain calm. As a kid, I studied the post-traumatic stress of her body like flashcards for a test. While her memory flashed back to the past, I could see she was on guard for whatever attack would come next. I read this in her tension, her quietness, her stress, her preoccupation. I read this and felt the deepest fear of losing her. So even though I was her child, I adapted around this aura and became her peer, her parent, to the point where I could infer, shapeshift around her feelings to take care of her. To not make her more stressed or upset, I went to text, to writing, to reading, searching for words to communicate and gain the attention of my emotionally absent parent. My mom's body has been chopped, propped, examined, sliced into, infected, drugged, blinded, thinned, punched, assaulted, pulled, slapped, Notice that this is all happening to her. Bruised, scabbed, scarred, stapled, adjusted, regulated, dehydrated, stitched, ripped from top to bottom, and then sewn shut, excavated, injured, swollen, torn up, but never healed. Instead, band-aided, cauterized, pierced, branded, frozen, shivering, without light, tortured, you could say, misunderstood, filled with toxins, denied proper health care, left rotting, encaged, shamed, spit on, judged, all by men. I could see why she felt as though she should give up on her body. Anyone she'd ever trusted already had. Doctors, siblings, lovers. Every person she trusted with her body has heard it. Her temple was nothing but ruins for tourists to admire what it's been through. She has been through ridiculous things. I think because she happens to be a fat woman of color. And the world hates those. Her body is the body of a torture victim. But she survived. And that's what she does. Survives. Even if she's desensitized. Hair day. Sunday. 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 Oh, you guys are good at this, man. The only difference between my brother and I is how we spent our Sundays. While he'd be off playing his video games on Sundays, me and every other black girl went to school. Living rooms and kitchens became our classrooms. The teacher, our mothers. My mom, who always said she didn't have a book on how to raise me, which makes sense, because what she needed to teach me about the world and about myself in it could not be passed down through words like the talk for black boys, no. It was passed through coded lessons, initiations, rituals on enduring pain, and it was called Hair Day. Her tools, comb, brush, blow dryer, conditioners, relaxers, clips, plastic bag, and heating pad. Yeah. With tools in hand and cold demeanor, she conditioned me. Verbatim, she yelled at my hair, telling it, "You are not good." What did that mean? That it and I were not obedient? That it and I were too unruly? It meant she needed to fix this part of me in order to prepare me for what the world would do to me. "Put your head down," she'd say, with comb applied to dirty, quenched scalp, fractioning my hair into two from nape to crown. She relaxed my hair, told it to settle down, to be less unruly, less itself, less kinky, more manageable, more of someone, more of something else. As I sat there, enduring the burning of my scalp, I observed my dead ends lying about the living room, classroom, floor, piled like ash in a crematorium. And though there was no chalkboard, the mini lesson could have been written. This is where we shed ourselves to become a standard of beauty. Then she would hoist me into the kitchen, wash me out under the sink, waterboarding me until I could barely breathe. It felt like torture. Then she squeezed all the moisture out of me with towel, and then suffocated with plastic bag and applied heat with heating pad to leave in and transfuse the pain, deeply conditioning my brain with the torment of, the endurance of, the tolerance of her body's pain and everything unhealed in her. When I'm almost numb, she would part with comb, push, pull with brush, dry out and stretch that African shame. It's almost done, she'd say. And then she would flatten it, deprive it of moisture, deprive it of life force, deprive so much until it cannot even remember desire. Because the less you desire, the more desirable you will be. So I make it thin to drain out the temptation. Her hands sending messages of trauma so complex from each generation, from my hair to my cerebral cortex. Until I learned to be obedient and not cause disruption. Disrupting, she'd say, go look. Standing in the mirror, I would run and look at myself. And I was proud to look nothing like myself, but to be tamer, more controlled, closer in proximity to beautiful white girls. And the day would end with me saying, thank you, Mommy. Grateful for this special lesson. Black Americans call the unruly hair at the back of the head the kitchen. The back of the head. The back of the head. My brother was 10 and almost dead when a brush hit the back of his head. My mother whipped it at him, medulla oblongata splitting open like the Red Sea. She was trying to get him to stop bothering me while doing my hair at the kitchen sink. In the reflection from the puddle of blood, thick like ketchup in its viscosity, I saw a memory. My brother ate so much ketchup once, doctors found a huge acidic gas bubble in his belly. Seeing him crying, saliva stretched by his teeth widening, his humanity existing on the edge. He was 10 when he first balanced between life and death, perched in purgatory. Let's take a few breaths. Breathe in. Breathe in. Often, life and death met on the same day. Violence integrated with the ordinary. That's probably what made me most uncomfortable during childhood. At any moment, I never knew when they would meet. My parents would fight, and then we'd all watch a movie. My brother was being pummeled by my dad in one room, while my mom was folding laundry. See, that's when abuse started to feel normal, because abuse started to sneakily blend in with normal. Shake hands with normal, embrace normal, then suffocate normal. And while normal was struggling to catch its breath, abuse snuck inside normal through its mouth, down normal's esophagus, and took over its body, until finally, abuse became normal. And I couldn't tell the difference between yelling and talking loudly, or the sound of crying and laughter coming from another room, or when someone is only laughing because they want to cry, or when someone is crying because they ran out of laugh. See, abuse kind of strangled normal, disguised itself as normal and took its place within my family, so that what is usually unusual became unusually usual. For example, there was another time, a memory, when my dad pulled a knife out on my mom, but I don't remember the buildup because I wasn't there for it. This time, Mom told us to come downstairs, called us to block all the doors, and here we were, like factory line workers, finding different pieces of furniture to barricade entrances, windows. But somehow, we were too slow, and Dad had made his way back in. It was like he was obsessed with the abuse remaining domestic. Mom screamed, instructed us to gather some things and flee, to start the car, to go. Sitting anxiously in the back seat with our to-go bags, wondering if Mom would come out. We saw Mom emerge from the house and we cheered, ready to escape to a hotel with nice seats. But the passenger door was the first one to swing open, and it was our bleeding father being escorted with white tea stained in rose gore, like a butcher who was here now. His hands gashed open by the same knife he threatened to kill her with. And there was our mom, saving her abuser. We thought we had escaped. We thought we were finally safe. But now we were driving him to the hospital. Could you believe our confusion? Wasn't this the man we were running away from? You see, the thing was, we tried to enact tradition, trying to be a normal family who did normal family things. 2-parent household, each parent having a car, going on family vacations in the summers. But it was fiction. When Dad bought a car, he didn't have a license or couldn't afford the monthly payments. So he crashed his Lexus into a tree to claim insurance money. When we had a house, Dad forgot to pay the bill, so the lights shut off. We lit candles like we were performing a seance. When we went on vacations, Dad would grab the steering wheel, insulting Mom. She would kick him out the car, tell him to walk on the highway the rest of the way, and when we arrived at our destination, she would worry and drink from night until day. Everything was topsy-turvy, dysfunctional, missing a component. The cycle of my parents was this. My mom would end up winning, temporarily, by getting our dad out of the house, but he would always find his way back in. Most times it was by trickery, using me and Taryn as pawns. Coming home from school, walking down the steps of the bus, he would corner us, saying that his exit was abrupt, how he didn't have anything, but he will leave before Mom could see. He just needed to come back to get his stuff, exploiting our trust. So we let him back in, watching him the whole time, but he was lollygagging, stalling, taking his time. And when Mom gets in, he starts kind of apologizing, but not really taking accountability, just blaming his mistakes on whatever reason of that day. And Mom says, guiltily, "Okay, you can stay until you get back on your feet. I know you have nobody." Back on his feet. My dad's shoes hung on the back of my door for as long as I can remember. Even when he was kicked out, his presence remained hanging in the doorframe. There were so many times I could have took them, could have thrown them away. But maybe I kept them to remember what they looked like so that I wouldn't step into them. Sometimes it was the shoes that got him back in, but most times it was the suitcases. When I say Sunday, you say hair day. Oh, I didn't say it. Sunday. Sunday, 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 Sunday. You always turn everything into a beat. I love it. Okay, the only difference between my brother and I is how we spent our weekends. While he was off playing with water guns, hopping fences, I was busy on the Sabbath, using Nair, aka no hair, ridding the mons pubis and armpits of any wildness. Fridays were for eyebrows and nails and skin bleaching, accidental. But Sundays were for straightening. The spiral shape of our hair is the same shape as a DNA double helix. Like my scalp, the double helix is also composed of strands. What better way to pass trauma down? Hair days are the sessions that atomically bond black girls to their mothers. Because my hair, like my mom's body, has been chopped, examined, infected, poisoned, pushed, pulled, yelled at, burned, thinned, dehydrated, threatened, and regulated. And if the curl is manipulated for long enough, it seeps into the girl until we slowly transform into the body of our mothers, embodying everything unhealed in her. I became her. The transformation wasn't head to toe. Nah, it was slow. Because hair day lasted 2 decades. It was brain first, dismissing internal cues, gaslighting my own truth. If I felt pain, I'd say, it didn't hurt. I would churn up resilience, telling myself I am strong enough to endure pain, even though I believed I was not enough as I am. Because in order to be accepted, I needed to be altered. So I held the unworthiness in my conscience. So when I went to school on Mondays, and the black girls taught to compete, push-pulled my hair, trying to dissect and discover the real me under that weave. And the Hispanic girls, admiring, told me with their approving glances that I fit in, that I was now actually Puerto Rican. In their eyes. And the boys, oh, the boys, who we all want to learn the approval of, saw me, touched me, gave me their attention and affection, told me that I looked pretty for a black girl. I just felt so happy to be visible, even when I felt so much internal shame. I learned I could be claimed by a group and belong if I endured pain. So I became her first by brain, then blood, sacrificing unconditionally during teenagehood. The belief of feeling not enough catching up to me. I had to continuously prove that I was worthy. And all the matriarchs already conditioned me to love without conditions, to be the one who carries the entire friendship, to always be there to listen, to have no expectations, to cook, to clean, to pamper, to care, to bear the children, to hold the nation, the world up when I am down, to let the fish eat my flesh as I drown, until I went down the deep abyss and became her by belly next. Anorexic, disordered eating, disillusionment. My life was swirling. It made no sense. My hunger, like my innocence, gone. Just like my mom's. Her body vanished too in a surgery room in her 30s. Gastric bypass. Made her stomach smaller. Shrunk her body. Stole away that powerhouse in her center that wants and craves. Cut half of that intuition that makes her brave and replaced it with anxiety. Her microbiome, like mine, was revolutionary, but divided due to depriving its voice of choice. And then I became her through bile, secretion, blood, sweat, tears. I've been working since I was 11. John Henryism is a condition among African Americans where we cope with our trauma through exertion and determination. My John Henryism was going overtime all the time, working overtime, working. For words of affirmation and validation, working for that sensation of elation, working until I became her, until we were morphed into one through pain and desire. This is the ritual act, the passing down, the relief from knowing that the unmanageable hair at the back of the head is straight. The kitchen is finally nice and neat. The back of the head, the back of the head. My father bloodied and almost dead when a slotted spoon struck him in the back of the head. Not once, not twice, not just 3 times, but until he was almost incapacitated. It was my brother's hand that caused the blows, bashed his dad's brains like an act of Cain. In Dad's pool of blood, I could see in the reflection my brother saving me from drowning in a pool when I was 7. He was always forced into the position to save my mom and me. Always a savior. Single mother now. At 40, there was no love. Mom and Dad broke up. My mom had gotten fired from her job as a property manager when I was 13. That's when she worked part-time as a census taker and a cashier at a liquor store, which is what caused her to drink. I think because there was a lack of closure from my dad and her. Confusion and a lack of closure cause healing to be delayed. And you know what they say, fired in liquor, everything goes up in flames. Her relationship with my dad was traumatic. Her relationship with her family was chaotic. Her body became locked between fight, flight, or freeze. Her limbic system was having difficulty regulating and coping. Her reptilian brain wanting to do only the basic functioning. She's an Aquarius. That year, the water-bearing air sign became aquatic, drinking in volumes the size of the Adriatic. The shift was dramatic. Her subconscious took over for logic, and in one summer, the drinking and the emotional pain were one and the same, both chronic. She had friends over every night. Drinking addiction is more normalized in public. She sought soothing from a bottle like we do when we're infants, but this tonic was toxic. And because chaos is what she was used to, her nervous system sought familiarity. Her mind and body confusing chaos for safety. So she quickly moved on to a relationship that continued the high levels of toxicity. Complete combustion occurred when we discovered that my mom and Steven, my brother's tutor from an after-school program, started dating. We had asked my mom if her and Steven were dating. Terrence said he would hate it. Steven was his tutor, was only 4 years older, and Terrence couldn't stand the hazing from his friends and the neighbors. And she said no. She promised. And a year later, she revealed the truth to me at a party. She said that her and Steven tried to keep it a secret. I felt tricked. The next day, I told Taryn, and his reaction was tragic. I couldn't have anticipated how hectic it would get between them. Taryn, the miracle child, the angel, was sensitive, fragile. I didn't know my brother, my savior's wings, were made of plastic.
I know what it is to be broken and be bold. Tell you that my silver is gold, though we're much too old for make-believe. And I know what it's like to be whole and not be held. From the hour stomach unfed, seems satisfied 'cause it's well and swollen. You caught me shooting across the sky like a star, but nobody told me to never let it get too far. See my silhouette, so you're standing scared of me. Can I tell you a secret? My wings are made of plastic. 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 Oh, my wings are made of plastic. 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 My wings are made of. And so
When I was 15, my mind was like a heartbeat, constantly echoing the rhythmic pattern of food, food, food. My mind was like a heartbeat, always pumping blood into the wrong soul. My synapses, the blood vessels, carrying negative thoughts, swimming in negative thoughts, being negative thoughts. My brain was a potion, a spell that my body could not break, an unwanted dream. But in reality, I lived, hungry and forever dreaming. So I escaped with the black magic that creates anorexia. My mind intertwined and tangled like the SpaghettiOs sitting in a bowl untouched because the noodles and the meatballs touched. Crusted were my eyes, tired of dying, but not giving up on trying to be all that I can, hoping to one day take off the shoes that this life fills, but only after I crossed the finish line. And all of my friends, family, and even time has said goodbye. I will have survived with a medal around my waist that is only skin and bone, saying, no one knows how great it feels to finally be skinny and alone. Back then, I didn't know how to cry or talk about what I was experiencing. So I smoked weed, orbiting in my own space. And my celestial body, alienated and desensitized, absorbed by darkness like space itself, became a wrangler of stars, a capture of light, trying to control the unknown, trying to make a world I could be a part of, a world with some type of God. When I was young, my mom and dad told me that every human being on this earth are God's children. We're all family, and I believed them. So I tried searching for God in mankind. Maybe this time, God isn't just in the Bible, but is in the world too. Maybe God isn't some being in the sky that shows up or becomes absent when he wants to. Maybe God is more than just destruction. Maybe I could find God in his creations. But when I watched the Maury Povich show this one time, and this man shot his girlfriend in the eye and she became blind, it was the first time I had questioned humanity. And I wondered, how could we all be family with no empathy? I kept searching for God in man, looking for the good in them. But man kept teaching their children to be racist, calling me a nigger, punching me in the stomach, dodgeball to the face, BB gun to the gut at point blank range. I kept searching for God in man, but man kept making the atomic bomb. Man kept rewriting nature's laws. Man kept sending troops to Vietnam, to Iraq, to Afghanistan. I kept searching for God in man, but man kept using his voice as a weapon, kept whistling, kept catcalling, kept harassing, kept following. And when that wasn't enough, man used his body, kept touching things that weren't his, in department stores, decorative, marbles on tables. Man kept touching and became puffed up with entitlement to the point when a woman says no, says stop, it's like he can't hear it. I kept searching for God in man, all over. There were so many missionaries, so many prophets, so many preaching the word, but everything they had to say was completely absurd. I kept searching for God in man, but man kept upholding whiteness as supreme, telling us to believe that whiteness is the ideal, the standard of beauty. White men knew that having green-blue eyes is a mutation, and having fair skin a biological disadvantage, and having an appendage that hangs between your legs is vulnerable. So they put themselves at the center and the top of society to stay protected after raping, colonizing, pillaging our world and leaving it to rot. At 15, I was feeling depression about the Great Depression, the Great Nadir, in the 1800s when Black Americans lost everything gained during Reconstruction. Depression about Wounded Knee, the Trail of Tears, chattel slavery, the recessions, all the lowest points, all the world wars and the Cold Wars, all the Holocausts, all the genocides. Palestinian mothers write the names of their living offspring on their limbs, waiting for the day a bomb will spring off the arm of their children. They write the names in permanent Sharpie to know which one of their children the arm or leg belonged to. All of this supposedly with divine intention, but actually fueled by Zionism, white supremacy, and capitalism. American dollars say, "In God we trust," and every time I see that, I feel so much disgust. I want to rip that fucking dollar up. If God is watching over us, would he be proud to see what was created? How man has desecrated sacred land with litter, extraction, and exploitation. How man has violated generations. I kept searching for God and man, but the problem was that every man saw himself as a god. I don't believe God is a man, but I do believe that believing so enables the patriarchy, gives men the power to see themselves divinely. It was a man who first called God a he, and then man made themselves in his image. Manifest destiny, divinely ordained to torture, to kill, to rape, to savagely slay with no delay. For they say it is a man's right. For they say it is in a man's power to construct and demolish, moving in the footsteps of a god, their role model, their father. I can no longer say amen at the end of prayer. Instead I say, amen. When I say Sunday, you say hair day, Sunday. Sunday. When I say Sunday, you say hair day, Sunday. Sunday. When I say Sunday, you say hair day, Sunday. Sunday. When I say Sunday, you say hair day, Sunday. Sunday. The only difference between black girls and black boys is how we spend every day. Our moms do our hair as an act of love, enacting the hurt that is primary, just like they did during slavery, preparing us for the pain that will happen to us behind closed doors, invisibly. So that when that day comes, black girls are more prepared for when men say, head down, and grab our head, spread our lips, and tell us to open wider around them as he spits. As moms split our hair in two pieces, both mother and man turn on the TV. Better for the screaming, we suppose, but we don't know that yet. Moms relax the hair from nape to crown. Men pass their fingers through our scalps, caressing us and telling us to settle down, to relax, to feel like we're at home now, because kinky needs to be tamed, and we are theirs for the taking. Moms hoist us into the kitchen, wash us out under the sink. It feels like torture. Then, squeezing all the moisture out of us with towel. Men hoist us up from bent knee, throwing a towel over our shoulders while the white stuff drips down our neck and face, commanding us to wash up because they are hot and need to teach us, condition us to the wants of, the power of, the dominance of men and everything unhealed in them. Moms part with comb, push-pull with brush, dry out and stretch the natural hair that tries to live. It hurts so much. We pull away, she pulls towards. We wince and she hits, regulating and taming that African heritage into submission. It's almost done, she'd say. Men pull us to the bed, parting our limbs every which way, hot with temptation, disgust for what we are, lust for what we can be, ready for penetration. It hurts so much. We push away, they push towards, and hit us for good measure. Be tame, they are saying. Be silent and be tame. Push, pull. The thrusting of their hips say, I want you. I don't want you. But we want men to want us. We want to be desired. That's what all the teachings come down to. So, one stroke, two stroke, good. Shh. Better. much easier to pass through, much more passive, just the way I like it. I'm almost done, he says. Here Mom comes with flat iron now, head not tamed enough somehow, scorching it with flattening tool until every last drop of water of life force is subdued. No more life, no more of us. We must be different for the world to accept us, Mom say without speaking. Squeezing life from root to end. Surprisingly, this was the best part, the least painful of it all, and towards the end. Men come and lay beside us now, no longer filled with passion but with grossness and doubt. They do not make eye contact, just quickly get dressed. Where are you going, we say. But they avoid this, depriving us of any loving emotion, just saying, I'll be back. And as they leave, surprisingly, we cry, squeezing every last drop from our body. Go look, Mom says, and we do, finding that what we see is really untrue because as we look at ourselves, we feel proud to look nothing like ourselves because we can finally fit in. And we turn and yell, "Thank you, Mommy," at the highest octave. We look in the mirror, recognizing only that we are not ourselves, and we feel proud that we are becoming who men want us to be. Less of ourselves, less without, deprived and more tame, more subservient. We've been groomed so well. Thank you, we say internally, as he turns the key, saying nothing at first, just turning on the TV. With the TV still on, Mom gives us a hug and says, "Okay, let's finish this up," and wraps our hair, pins it up before we go to bed. He says, "Clean yourself up, you disgusting little slut," and we do whatever he says. And oh, put on that rap I like before you go to bed. And as we, girl and woman, slip into bed quietly, we notice we are smiling because we finally feel good, feel beautiful in the eyes of patriarchy. The back of the head is groomed. The kitchen is ready to be used. The back of my head, the back of my head was forced down, gripped in a headlock, staring with rage at the kitchen floor. Taryn and I were fighting over my PS4. But the fight wasn't really about that. It was about power. I kept saying no. Taryn kept saying yes. I said, "I don't want to give it to you." Taryn said, "If you don't give it to me, I'll take it." And I said, "If you take it, I'll break it." Both of us escalating. Both of us brawling with every unhealed moment between us. While my neck was encaged, I saw through my red rage, and I realized we were fighting exactly the same as our parents. Me and my brother, who's like my twin, trapped in our parents' actions, our parents' narrative. Trust was always shattered in the kitchen. The place to mend in a dysfunctional family becomes the place where men cause damage irreparably. When I was 17, I started therapy, recovery for disordered eating. 17 was the first time I had a girlfriend, the first time I was coming into my queer identity. It was brief. She had cheated. I know. At 17, I was in New Hampshire for a summer, seated in the front seat of a van. I had just finished reading Deepak Chopra's book, Pursuit of Happiness. And it was one of the happiest moments of my life. It was the first time I had ever been present. My hair was natural, on accident, because I didn't know how to do it myself. I prayed 3 times a day. Finding gratitude for every meal helped heal me from the inside out. At 17, my body was a temple, and theater was becoming my sanctuary. At 17, I started finding God in me. And God wasn't in any one ideology, any one religion. God, to me, enhanced my spirituality. My God isn't authoritarian. My God does not pass judgment. My God is a friend. My God is a constant. Is it sacrilege to believe that I am sacred? To believe that I am whole and therefore holy? Is it sacrilege to believe in make-believe? That I will drop to my knees for stage combat? That my quiet place is a stage? That the audience, my congregation? Is it sacrilege to believe in my idolatry? To see that I am a queer queen? Slay all day, okay, let's go. That I am non-binary royalty. And in my world, pride is not a sin that is deadly, but is the thing that breeds community. Is it sacrilege to feel that I am worth worship? To find the sacred within myself? To water my roots, which are natural? To plant seeds through words and make the world into a garden? Is it wrong then to believe in my divinity and to see it in my intersectionality? Is it sacrilege that I have found God in me? Distance can make the heart do a lot of things. Grow fonder or grow numb. I didn't know what the distance would do to my heart over time. And over time, my dad and I, we tried closing the distance, as if our hearts were running on a track and mine was on the 5th lap, waiting for his to catch up. But his would take a long water break. His would sit on the bench and think about the distance rather than work to close it. And when his heart sits, it thinks. And when his heart thinks, it hurts. And when his heart hurts, it wants to hurt another heart. And so throughout the years, sometimes his heart would arise from the bench at the same time I was passing it, and he would, still slower than my heart, yell at me from behind, saying, "Why haven't you called?" Saying, "Well, your mom did X, Y, and Z." Saying a lot of nonsense things. And so the distance wouldn't close. Because it couldn't close when 2 hearts were on different pages of a love letter, having different wants. But one day in January 2019, Our hearts closed the distance. Our hearts sat opposite each other, both our palms facing up on our knees, so that our hearts that hung openly on our sleeves could see each other clearly. And we hadn't sat like that in a long time. He said, "I'm sorry. I know I ruined your childhood. Your mother did everything right by me. She did the best that she could. And that's all I had ever wanted to hear." Dipsomania, a word that derives from the Greeks, meaning madness for thirst, and what, in our modern day, we would call alcoholism. Dipsomania suggests the episodic, the periodic cravings, like a wolf who howls at the moon once a month. Her mouth experienced bouts of depression, periods of a deep desire for suppression from all the stressors, stretches of time where there was no cessation. But this disease is progressive, so what did not always happen now became excessive, and it changed all of her expressions. She had absorbed all the messaging from the systems of oppression like a sponge. Her body became like drop. It drooped, and the tears in her ducts started to pool. Her father wound manifesting in her inability to speak, her isolation, her distance. Her mother wound manifesting in her pent-up aggression, her aggravation, her criticism. Her face became saggy, sunken, like her drunken father's and her paternal grandmother's, who also suffered from this disease. The drinking caused her mouth to be so dry, like sand. She drank, and the message in the bottle became clear. Division. Draw a line in the sand between her and her children. She admitted constantly that her emotional immaturity was caused by narcissistic tendencies. She said, "The greatest artists come from narcissistic parents, from neglect, because we are so busy worrying about ourselves, we can't worry about what our kids do." Just like Narcissus staring into his reflection, looking into liquid, she attempted self-reflection. But addiction made her a victim. It got to the point that when we spoke, she couldn't even listen. The water bearer became a vicious wave who could not see her impact. I have rewound, I have rehearsed, I have played it over and over again. It's February 4th, 1967. The eldest daughter of a dysfunctional Puerto Rican family was born to Pedro and Mercedes. Your mom wanted your name to be Colleen, but your father, at war in Vietnam, who has only a 5th grade education, wrote Carlina on the birth forms. Alcoholism and depression ran on your father's side. Perfectionism and anxiety on your mother's. It's January 4th, 1985. You're 18. You dropped out of school in your last semester. Low self-esteem. Smoking cigarettes, drinking, and doing cocaine. Trying to process the pain that you don't have the language for. Mary J., SWV, Queen Latifah aren't out yet, but you're partying to music just like it, creating your confidence, building it from outside in, from celebrities on TV, because your mom and all your titis, every potential role model, were always absent, physically and emotionally. It's May 11th, 1988. It's March 11th, 1994. It's April 14th, 1997. Your attempts at family, your births of children. We all have your eyes, your bony fingers, your heart. It's May 11th any year. You have awoken us from bed in the middle of the night, panting and with tears. We drive to the grave of Blaine and hear you mourning, wailing, and we cry alongside you, darkness enclosing us every year. It's May 11th, 2023, Blaine's 35th birthday. You are drinking multiple bottles of alcohol a day. It's May 14th, 2023. It's Mother's Day. I didn't call you because I had really bad allergies. It's May 15th, 2023. You chose to stop drinking abruptly, which doesn't seem odd because you always did this when you were about to see family, when you were about to see me. It's May 16th, 2023. Stephen asks, "Are you sure you're not drinking today?" And you reply, "No. I want to live life for me." I remember the first time I wanted that. It's March 8th, 2022. My credit dropped 100 points, and I had a panic attack. But it wasn't because of any choice that I made, but debt caused by you and Stephen all in my name. I went to your house. You said you would solve it. Stephen, trying to create false memories, said that I wanted this, that I wanted to help you both. Stephen was gaslighting me, clutching his fists in and out like he was about to fight me, the voice of addiction kicking in. I took a few days away, not wanting to cause further friction. When I asked about the money, Stephen said to stop bothering and started hollering, insulting me, beating me down. And you didn't step in. And it reminded me of every moment in our life when you were voiceless, when you were passive. It reminded me of that time when I was 5. We walked hand in hand through Macy's, and you randomly said to me, "I am your best friend, and you're my best friend too. I always want to know if somebody's hurting you. Even if there's a monster under your bed, I'll believe and protect you." But that was not always true. There were so many times where you put the monsters right in front of us, brought the monsters the men who hurt us inside of our home. I know you did it to fulfill your dream of a family, but there were so many times when you gave us the illusion of choice, asking us, should I let your father back in? And we voiced our decision. We said, no, we don't want it. And then a couple days later, we saw him. When you asked, should I break up with Steven? I said, yes, it's toxic and causing your relationship with Taryn to be imbalanced, uneven. And yet, we still see him. There were so many times when we, as your children, did not actively receive your protection. I needed to figure out who I was outside of our enmeshment. I needed distance. I couldn't process our relationship while still being in it, just like you can't be in recovery while still using. I told you this, and you respected it. Requested that we check in to make sure the both of us are alive. Let's keep rewinding. It's April 15, 2023, the day after I turned 26. I'm warming up to perform in Coriolanus, and a member from my ensemble massaging my back notices the tension from my shoulders to my ribs. I go home and look up heart chakra tension, and it mentioned difficulty to forgive. And this realization made me want to speak to you. I felt ready. You offered, suggesting we meet up for coffee. I said, sure. And when that plan failed, we kept on planning promptly. We settled on meeting at Grandma's on May 4th, 3 generations existing at once. But Grandma had COVID, so we postponed it to May 19th. It's May 17th, 2023. I'm lying on a yoga mat. My best friend calls, says, your mom had a heart attack. My stomach dropped. What should I bring with me? I called an Uber. I called Taryn. I called Grandma. I texted Kaylee, told them to hurry. I met Taryn in the lobby, and we both remembered being in this hospital before. Walking past the doors to the emergency room, I saw Steven, hugged him and sobbed like never before. The male doctors took us to a room, closed the door, told us we may want to sit. I remember, for some reason, they were all smiling. They said they were trying to stabilize you, getting you breathing again. And then they would freeze your brain so that it wouldn't lose oxygen. They said you were doing okay and that you still had a heartbeat. Taryn and Steven went outside to update family, to smoke, to take a beat. I stayed, staring at one point intensely, unmoving in that seat. And a nurse in purple scrubs walked over to me and said, would you like to come in and talk to her? All I ever wanted was for us to communicate. I had never seen you this way. All of your sicknesses on display. Bulging eye like fish, belly up. I had never seen you this way. Feet so dry like you walked through desert sun for 40 days and 40 nights just to get here. This hospital room, filled with tubes and tanks, breathing machines and buzzing noises, pearly white lights and clinical clothing. I had never seen you this way. I was supposed to see you in 2 days. I was supposed to see you alive. But walking into this room, I saw you for the first and last time in a year. I saw your busted up shirt so the doctors could get to your heart, and the Pringles exploded that lied above your shoulders. I know you were waiting for me to talk to you, just as I had been waiting for you to listen. To see you so close to death, I couldn't believe how intimate. They said the heart attack started in the kitchen. The last sense humans have is hearing. The last voice you heard was mine. Who knew that the time for us to communicate simply would come at a time when time itself ceased? I caressed your fingers so lightly with mine while staring into your eyes, like looking into my reflection or my potential future, and thought, here we are again, always intertwined. I always see myself in you. I leaned in, pushing voice out of me, barely whispering. And what I told you over and over again was simple and true. It's me. I'm here. I love you. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. There was no complex poetry. Mine was the only hand in that room that was handling you tenderly. I, as your strength personified, giving you permission to let go, to surrender, to be at peace. And as I stepped away to leave for the doctors to do their surgery, your heartbeat stopped. The doctor, the one who was a black woman, said, your mother is really, really sick. And it was the first time anyone in my life had ever said aloud, ever confirmed what I had always been thinking. They pumped you with drugs, shocked you awake, but there was no more life in you. It was too late. At 3:41 a.m., pure stillness arrived. I didn't want to shut your eyes. I didn't want it to seem like death was happening to you.
I am sending you all my love. Break a leg. I know your knee's hurting, so I hope that feels better before the end of the day. And have fun with your friends. And I'm trying to give you the best life that I can possibly give you and just let you be you and let you fly like the swan that you are. So I am not there today, but I know that you're going to do amazing. And I feel so guilty for not being there, but not going to feel guilt. I'm going to say that you're going to do the greatest job ever because I trust and believe in you always. Love you, your mom, and your heart. You're my heart too. So I love you, babe. You're going to do a really great job and break 2 legs in this process. And I'll see you when you get home. Love you. Bye.
We did what we do in the kitchen. We played music, sang around you like a hearth, persuading that eternal life force to stay with us on earth. I know death must be beautiful because it took your breath away. After death, I planned your funeral. Well, we called it a wake, which is ironic because you weren't awake. A week before the wake, it was late. It was 4 a.m. It was 19 minutes into you dying. And I saw a single saltwater tear fall from your right eye, the one that wasn't blind, and wondered, were you crying? Were you having emotions about your own death? Did you, the one who was always invincible, feel guilty for dying? Scientists theorize that when we die, our brains play the best moments of our lives. And when I learned that, it hit me that if you were crying, it wasn't from defeat, but from playing the best moments of your life on repeat. And what did you see? My college graduation? Was it when you got your job in property management and realized you were good at it? Taryn's high school graduation? That sunset we were turning onto I-90 East, heading back to Boston, and Knocks You Down by Kanye and Carrie Hilson started playing on the radio for the first time. And we were vibing in the back seat, ethereal and magical like our ancestors when they were free. Was it when you were 17 and you skipped school and took that random road trip to Montreal with your friend Keith? You had no money and only cigarettes. Was it every goofy, crazy moment in the kitchen, discussing the stupidity of politicians while eating breakfast, while simultaneously washing dishes, while twerking and singing the entire soundtrack of Hamilton? Was it when I showed you a poem from this play? When I asked for your permission to share this, and it was the first time we talked about any of this, and you said to keep going, to keep writing, because you felt seen, you felt witnessed. Some say that death is just the other side of life. I believe that. And I believe that after death, our spirits go back to their essence. Our spirits go back to source. Life first originated in the oceans. I understand now that the tear was not a sign of shame, but was a message that your spirit had transcended, had made it back home. The tear was the guide to tell me that you are now residing in your spiritual haven. I know you are in your own type of heaven. Like a moth in a heaven filled with suns and sweets, I know your heaven is filled with endless beach. Because your heaven on earth was the beach. And when me and Kaylee visit with the kids we haven't had yet, Theodora, Anderson, and Cleo, the ones you said who would be eating tomatoes like apples, our kids will still get to meet you. I imagine when Theodora runs up to the water and giggles, it would be the equivalent of you kissing her feet and it tickles. Or when Anderson floats, it would be the equivalent of you holding her. Or the push and pull is you playing peekaboo with Cleo, and he plays with you all day long. And like the ocean, I hope they will know your impact. Like the ocean, I hope they will know how big your body was. Like the ocean, I hope they will know how much life you held. I hope they will know how much you have carried. I hope they will know how you kept us afloat. I hope they will know how the world depended on you. I hope they will know how you needed protection. I hope they will know that you are outside of and within me. I hope they will know how you are my first home, who went back home. And I hope they will know how much I will do to keep you alive. Mom always said that grief comes in waves. After death, like a wave, our emotions swell, our hearts break. After death, like a wave, grief crashes into us. It's so emptying and so gnawing, seeing that no one else is out at sea with us. Feeling like we can't speak because who else has our exact experience? After death, we learn to ride the wave. And as we ride, we squint while the sun is in our eyes. And we see just how alike we are. We see how the sun is now redefined for grievers. Because the sun, life giver, star, radiant, like grievers, is also lonely. Like us, even the sun experiences isolation. The sun and the moon, the soul and the wound, always at conjunction, orbiting, running from the all-encompassing darkness of night. But the sun, like a griever, realizes that in order to still function, we must become our own lights that spread our warmth in all directions while continuing living, even when knowing that so many like us, star and human, have died. After death, grievers wave high as we step inside and find all the others who are in the same boat. We learn that our grief is not only individual, it's communal. What happens after death? We recognize that those of us who grew up in dysfunctional families are not alone. We notice that since harm happens in relationships, we must begin healing in relationship too. After death, we go from the individual to the communal. If you are able, could those of you who grew up in a single-parent household please stand up? Become aware of how many are standing. Take a breath and take a seat. Thank you. Could those of you who ever have felt like you didn't belong in your family please stand up? Become aware of how many are standing. Take a breath and take a seat. Could those of you who have ever lost someone please stand up? Become aware of how many are standing. Take a breath and take a seat. If you are able, could those of you who are on your own healing journey please stand up? and celebrate. Take a breath and sit. See how many of us there are? And we didn't even know how connected we were before today. So, what happens after death? Well, it's hard to know exactly. But I believe ultimately we do what we do in the kitchen. We gather. We tell stories. And so it is.